Hi guys, it's Blackie.
Hey, Mayor.
And today we have a special guest. Introduce yourself.
Lita Green.
Miss Lita is the one that makes the cap and ball lubricant that we use for the black powder guns. She's also a local celebrity that makes all kinds of soaps and candles and other things. And today we're going to be talking about soaps for you guys for Wayz. This is what, Wayz 32? Yes, 32.
Yeah, 32.
32.
We've been doing this about a year, 3 months, 4 months.
Okay, now from the idea of people trying to be off-grid and etc. Back in the day they made lye soap.
Right.
Which, as Bear and I have talked about in previous ones, lye soap worked, but it was really, you were at the mercy of the chemist there if they put too much in it or too little in it or etc. Today, what would you recommend would be a soap that you could make? You know, you might have to gather ingredients, but what would be a good general purpose soap today?
Lye soaps. They're wonderful.
They're still available.
They're still available. If you get a lye soap, you're getting the most basic natural ingredients that you can get. Lye comes from wood chips.
Right.
You make lye out of rainwater and wood chips. So when you do what is called a hot process soap and you use lye, you can use lard, you can use castor oil, any kind of oil you want to use. When you mix those two things together and you cook them like they used to in those big
old wash pot.
I got one right over there in the corner. Big old wash tub. You cook them in that. They're cooking the lye out, and that way you're just left with all the goodness from all of those oils. So the lye actually cooks out of it, goes through a chemical process called saponification.
Wow, there's a dangerous word on scrap there.
That's definitely a $5 word.
Yeah. Now, there are different kinds of soaps, and I've heard you say the word glycerin soap.
Right.
What is the job of a glycerin soap?
Glycerin soap is a very healing soap. So all these corporations that make soap, they have these big companies that they extract certain things from the old-timey way we used to make soap, right? They actually extract their vegetable glycerin from the soaps that they make nowadays, whether you're Dove or Irish Spring, whatever it is you're in the store buying, they have no glycerin in them because that's been pulled out. It's a commodity that they sell, okay? So if you make soap like I do, that glycerin stays in those soaps. So you have glycerin soaps, you have lye soap. Any soap that is made with lye, right? It's all cooked out or processed. You have glycerin soap, it's made with vegetable glycerin. You have lard soaps. You have the lye soap that's in everything basically. And then people add different things. People add scent, people add color, people add healing qualities from extracts and tinctures. So there's so many different ways you can make them.
Okay.
Like with herbs.
With herbs, anything from a tincture, an oil that you've extracted, oil of oregano, whatever you want to put in that soap, whatever healing qualities you're looking for that soap, black activated charcoal is one of the best things, especially for people that have psoriasis and eczema.
Yeah. And we've talked about in the past, I personally have used red oak bark to make a tincture for treating a skin problem. And if that would be a chronic thing that I need to do it, I could take that tincture and roll it into a soap.
Yep.
As opposed to having to make my leg stay brown, just tan my leg. I can see where that'd be a real advantage. But
Pine tar soaps.
But this stuff can still be at a primitive level made. Now this is advanced chemistry where you got to have a lab and a beaker and everything else to do it. You can still make it today that way.
Yes, I make it in a crock pot.
In a crock pot.
What our goal is to make it as simple as it can be for people in hard times. We want to kind of revisit what our grandparents did daily.
Okay, so the water that you get from making, say you're in a grid down scenario, right? You can take the water from your fire or the ashes from your fire, you mix them with water, you let them sit overnight. Take an egg and put it in that container. If that egg floats down to the bottom, it's not strong enough to make soap. If it floats on top of the water, you've got lye water. And if you have ever made any kind of soap before, you can take that lye and you can mix it with any type of oil, and you will have a form of soap that you can use. It's that simple.
Okay, I remember the story about putting an egg in it. I just didn't understand. I realize now from what you're saying that it in chemistry, a density
Right,
of it, how thick the mixture has become,
right.
where it's not just a liquid anymore. It's more like
It's
a
chemical.
soup.
It's a
pudding.
chemical. It is an acid.
Mhm.
And you don't want to mess around with that. You want to have on gloves, some kind of protection equipment when you're messing around with anything like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that is a natural,
I remember family members that used glass jars,
Yes.
wooden spoons,
yes.
Yeah.
and they were carved into it. I remember.
Because you only use them for that, you never use them for anything else. Once you put lye in something, like my crock pots, I could never cook in them again because I've had lye in them.
So it cannot be quote unquote sterilized out once you use the cooking
Right.
vessel. This ain't one of them things you're gonna use your canteen cup to do, that guys.
Right.
Don't do that. I know some people like to stress making char cloth and everything else in their stainless steel canteen. This ain't one of the things you're gonna make in the field that way.
When they were making them in cast iron, could they repurpose the pot, the cast iron pot, or was that a no-no?
My grandmother had 2 pots, one that we killed chickens in and one that we made soap in every year. Once you killed the hogs, that's the time you made the soap. Because you wanted that fat, the lard from the hogs, to use with your soap.
Well, I remember a family member that had a cauldron like you're talking about, and there was the scalding cauldron, and that was used for doing the hogs and everything else. And I do recall that was used to cooking. And then there was the one that had a broke handle on it. That was
Their soap making.
the soap one.
And
that was-
candles. They would make you can make candles in it too.
Right.
'Cause it's just
Nothing
wax.
edible though.
Yeah.
But I remember it being in the top of the barn, and you didn't mess with that one.
Right.
You know, that was something different. And I made a mistake. We were going down there, and there was going to be a hog killing, and we were told to go get it, and they made very specific instructions which one to get.
That's right.
Because they were actually the same size, but one of them had one of the handles that got broke. I'm sure this has been a food one that got damaged, and they became it because I guess the live one sat on a brick frame out there to heat up, and this one hung. So the
Everything
food
was
one hung.
repurposed.
Yeah, repurpose it. So it's no good for cooking anymore, but we can use it for making live, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Now, how about for cleaning clothes and stuff like that?
I at one time made a detergent, Blackie, but the problem with that is people are so used to what is in the stores and the scents of them that it's hard to find a water-soluble scent that you can put in the detergent and it will dissolve without putting in a chemical like a surfactant. It won't dissolve, it'll be separated, and people don't want to shake up those jugs to use it.
I got you. But I remember, and I'm sure you've heard of it, there used to be the old U.S. Army soap.
That was a form of lye soap that they shaved off and used for their laundry. So your
They
lye
did
soap that you
laundry.
make could be used for laundry too.
Yeah, because I remember they did laundry, they did their hair, they did
Yep,
everything.
everything.
It used to be, I remember my grandmother talking about Army soap.
One was green and one was white.
That was it. Yeah, I remember a box of green Army soap.
Yep.
And I remember I got something in my hair, getting around equipment. I seem to recall I got something, I want to say it was something like transmission fluid in my hair. And they couldn't get it out. I remember her getting a bar of that green soap
There it goes.
and taking me out back and using the water hose and scrubbing. I thought she was going to pull the hair out of my head.
I can remember my grandmother with a washboard and a bar of that soap scrubbing on that washboard, getting stains out of clothes before
Yeah.
they put it through the old-timey wringer where they turn the paddle
Yeah.
wheel, you know?
Yeah, that would be a fact. But now, we were poor, and so there's a lot of things we did that people would think were crazy today. When I was in like second grade or something like that, I got head lice. And instead of going to the doctor, my granddaddy went out and found a ant mound that wasn't fire ants. Had me lay down and put the back of my head in that ant mound, and he'd take his handkerchief and keep them out of my eyes and my nose. He said, "Now don't open your mouth." And I remember he stuffed candle wax, soft candle wax in mine, and stuck in my ear like earplugs so we'd go in my ear. And just lay there and let the ants would go in and eat all the lice.
I've heard of that before.
Oh yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, you gotta have willpower, baby, because there's 10 million things crawling on you, and he's keeping them off my face. You know, keeping them out of my eyes, I should say. He said, "Now keep my, keep my eyes." But they're crawling all around my ear, and they're crawling, around my lips and everything else, and it was just and down your chest, and it's just like you thought you'd been eaten alive. They wasn't biting me; they're going after them, but still, I remember that treatment. But yeah, soaps and etc. Now, with these soaps, how you said you're using a crock pot to make it,
Right?
and you do offer classes here locally. If you guys are down here in South Alabama, she does do classes on this stuff. But all you need is a crock pot to put your stuff in, let it go through it. How long is the process from the time I've got my raw materials sitting there in front of me? How long from that, putting the crock pot, does it take to make soap?
About 30 minutes.
That's all.
It goes through stages. It goes through a mashed potato stage. It goes through an applesauce stage. Then it goes through Vaseline. Once you've hit Vaseline, so this all happens within 30 minutes and you're stirring it.
Right.
When you hit Vaseline stage, you take a pH test strip and test it, and you'll see that the pH is in within normal limits from 7 to 10 for skin. And you make soap in 30 minutes. It's not hard.
That eliminates the people, making it too hot.
Right.
And like I said, being the chemistry people, you get it a little wrong. You get too hot of soap, and it peel hide off of it.
That's right.
What items do you put in? What's your recipe?
Now, you want me to give my secrets
Don't
away,
give away.
Bear?
Just say general, but
No,
you-
just a general
Good
recipe.
idea.
A general recipe would be coconut oil, olive oil. Some people like to put grapeseed oil in it. Some people like to use just lard. You can use lard and castor oil. The castor oil, if you ever remember when you were young and you had a bad stomach and Granny gave you that dose of castor oil, it made your guts bubble. Castor oil does the same thing for soap. It gives you bubbles. So a lot of people don't like to use homemade soaps because they don't have it doesn't have any bubbles
They
like our
don't
regular
foam up,
soap.
yeah.
Don't foam and bubble. That's what castor oil does for lye soaps. If you've got somebody making homemade soaps and it bubbles, it's because that person's smart and they put castor oil in it.
So it makes
So
it
that's
lather.
your general, just that in your lye, that's your general soap recipe. And you can put beautiful oils in it like jojoba oils and real eccentric oils, or you can just have a basic lard, you can have a basic olive oil, just depending. There's a thing on the internet called soapcalculator.net, and that is a good place for anybody that wants to make soaps. Always run your recipe through the calculator because it gives you parameters of where you want it to fall, as in conditioning and cleaning and bubbles. So that's a good tool for anybody that's wanting to learn how to make soap.
Now, does lye soap have a smell by itself? If you don't add a flavor, so to speak.
It smells like it's just clean. It don't really have it's just you smell the clean from the oils and
Okay.
there's not really a scent to it. It's just clean.
Well, that was just thinking, because I distinctly remember and that was probably them adding something, but I distinctly remember that the soap that I remember them having had a kind of like pine rosin smell. But
Okay, that was probably a pine tar soap.
They probably put pine tar into it. That's why I was just wondering if
Yeah.
the lye soap itself had a flavor
No.
for
Well,
the people out there ain't never had none.
If you use bacon grease, it's gonna smell like bacon.
Well,
Yeah.
bacon grease or lard. Lard don't have a scent, but
Yeah,
at the same
rendered
time-
lard doesn't have a scent, so.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you've got the soaps, you make the different soaps. Once you make it, how long does it take the soap to dry, hard, or is this going to be a soft soap or what?
Okay, it depends on what type of soap you're making. If you're making hot process like we're making, once you take it out of that crock pot, put your coloring scent in it, you put it in a mold. It sits in that mold 24 hours. The next day you cut it, and that soap can be used. But the longer that it sits out and dries, like if I made a new batch of soap, I would let it dry maybe 4 or 5 days. You know what I'm saying? But if it's a cold process soap, cold process has to sit on the shelf for 8 weeks before you can use it.
Ah.
Because it does not cook that lye out. It actually cooks it internally. Once you do your mixture of oils and lye, it cooks it that way. So it has to set 24 hours. You make sure what it looks like and it's done, and then it has to cut and be sat for 6 to 8 weeks.
Like old time oil paint, it took forever for it to dry.
Right, that's why I like the hot process soap, because it can be used immediately.
Okay.
This is a day old. This is called a Roman soap ball. This is what I have left over when I make a loaf of soap, and I give these out as samples. So, like one of these that have, you just make it the next day, it's just like this. So you feel how hard it is.
Yeah.
And when you cut that soap the next day, it's hard enough that I have to take a hammer and a copper stamp and stamp into it to put my insignia on it.
Okay.
This does smell clean, like you said.
I think that's a leather scent though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that's
And
just
that's
it.
a dragon blood.
All the smoke, all the soap that I've got from you and been around with has that clean scent, where most of the stuff that we buy at the store has this chemical scent.
Right, because there's chemicals in it.
They say it smells great, but to me it smells like laundry detergent. I mean,
Right. So if you don't know much about soaps, but you buy your soap in the dollar store or wherever, just pick up whatever kind of soap it is and try to read the ingredients on the back. And if you can't pronounce them, that's most likely an alcohol or a chemical that you're bathing your body with.
Yeah.
What's your alkali when you make your soap?
It's usually 7 to 9.
Well, no, when you put your water and your oil and your lard, something like that, into your oil, what's the, like, instead of putting like lye water in it, what do you put lye water in?
Yes, that's what makes the soap. The lye goes through a chemical reaction with the oils.
I had lost that somewhere in the process.
So like in
that we had lye in the crock pot.
Right. In a general recipe, you're going to have 3 pounds of oils, or 2.5, 3 pounds of oils, and you're going to have 14 ounces of lye water.
Okay. And then that's going to produce roughly how much soap? How many bars roughly?
That will produce a loaf of soap, which can be cut into 10 bars, and you will have 2. I make a little bit extra. I put a few ounces in so that I have the leftover for samples.
So it's really fairly economic.
Very much so.
From what I have found and are using it, the soap doesn't wear out as long as you keep it dry. I mean, wash with it and put it to dry. Don't leave it in a puddle.
Right.
Because it makes soft soap real easy.
Yes, if you let it get wet, it'll go soft.
It'll go
Just
soft.
like any soap, if you leave it wet, it's going to be soft.
Okay. So that sounds pretty good there. Now, I know you also do the lava-like soap, cleaning and stuff like that.
Gojo soap.
Gojo type soap.
Yes.
You just have an additive that you're adding into it.
So I make a basic lard soap for that. I add black activated charcoal to help heal the skin. It also has ground up walnut powder, chia seeds, and all of that mixed together gives you the grit.
Right.
Just like the Gojo has the grit in it. And it's really good for mechanics that have really greasy hands, because it'll heal those cracked skin when they have cracked skin on their hands. Also really good for gardeners, and the ladies really like it for the dead skin on their feet.
Yeah.
But that soap is not something you want to bathe your body in, because it would be an irritant to your body. You're using it for deep cleaning.
Well, the advantage to this, guys, is the fact, what we're trying to show you is, 1, you can make soap, and 2, there are various kinds of soap that you can make, depending on the job. It ain't all got to be the flowery stuff for the wife. It can be stuff for you guys in order to peel off and get the grease off and etc. from work. And you can do laundry, etc. So it would be very worthwhile, you know, using a crock pot. But once you have the basic idea down, you could actually do this on a stove or whatever. It's just a heat source.
It's just the heat source.
So we can see why they made them in the past that way, but making your own soap would be a way to do it, especially in times go hard. We talked about how that would be a good barter, because once you learn how to do this, you can barter it and hand it off to people that don't know how to do it. So
it is definitely a barterable trade.
one of the things that's often overlooked, and we've seen it firsthand down here because we've been around hurricanes, you haven't had power for a week and nobody's got a hot shower in a week. Trust me, being able to wash clothes and wash yourself becomes real important real quick.
And it's not gonna matter whether you have perfumey, you know, smelly kind of soap, or if you have just a plain old thing
Yeah.
of this.
Most
You're
important
not
thing
going to care.
You just want your
This-
butt clean.
You just want yourself clean.
is, yeah, be
This-
clean,
This will do it.
real easy. Well, anything, any other kind of soap you want to bring up to?
Maybe not soaps, but maybe the gun butter.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Don't
right.
forget about that on the website.
Yes, we got, guys, don't forget, Miss Lita does make the gun butter and the bullet butter for the cap and ball, and it also works well with the modern guns. So if you're interested, down there in the link, I'll put the link back to Miss Lita so you can come to her site. She's got them on her website, and if you want soap or something like that, you want to try it for yourself, maybe down the line, make your own, but you want to try some, contact her, tell her what you're looking for, and she'll set you up.
Yeah, we both highly endorse the gun butter and the bullet butter.
And the soap.
And
And the soap.
Yeah, these two right here are my go-tos. Leather and dragon's blood.
Yeah, dragon's blood's my favorite. Well, guys, we're gonna cut it short today because we've got other things we gotta do, but we wanted to bring this to you. Anything else you'd like to add, brother?
We're good. Till next time.
Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie.
And Bear.
Wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.